June 44, August 44 combined game. It's actually the July 13-14 turn. Let's just kind of catch up here. At a glance, we can see the pile-up still remains around Khan. The Americans are massing here, put some real hurt on the Germans, and they've really come close to a breakthrough here on the very far west coast. Card play for the Allies has been pretty instrumental. They have managed to draw a couple of good cards that have beaten up the Germans, specifically the manpower limitation for the Germans, which meant they were denied replacements for 2 straight turns. In each turn, the Germans rolled a 9 or a 10. That would be maximum replacements lost in those 2 turns. So that was really, really hard. You can see that the Germans are accumulating a lot of losses around here. These big armored divisions are wearing down. The Allies also played a very nice card that allowed them to conduct a major attack, which meant that they could combine as many hexes as they could possibly get people into in one attack. The normal combat procedure is 1 hex can attack 1 other hex. So that was a huge attack. Obviously it gave them a pretty good victory, but it could not dislodge the Germans from Khan. The Allied supply situation is still pretty strong, so they're probably going to be able to break through here pretty soon unless some strong reinforcements are able to get in place here for the Germans. Shifting over here to the west, you have the very large American presence here, hammering on these depleted German divisions. Likely to break through here. Germans just weren't able to extricate themselves to a better defensive position. Over here, good interdiction efforts kept the Germans from getting too far and cost them this city right here. Now the Americans were able to move all the way down to here. Now have good open territory to launch some attacks. So this is looking very promising for the Americans in the West. However, they had some inadvertent stupid player help. There is actually a campaign game rule that I forgot. I knew something was missing, I just couldn't put my finger on it. That would allow the Germans to double their movement factors at the risk of an interdiction attack that would cost them a step. So really the whole game I should have had far more forces moving here to the west than I actually did. And that kind of cost the Germans, both in position and in really attack capability. But I made a couple of mistakes in the Germans' favor as well, so I think it might have evened out a little bit. But I would say I think the Americans are a lot farther ahead than I really anticipated at this point. So that's where it is right now. And I think we'll check in again after a few more turns. And here we are at the start of the July 21-22 turn. See that the Americans have made tremendous progress in the west. They were fortunate enough to draw the carpet bombing card, which allowed them to obliterate a German armored division right here. Not the lair, it was a second in this case, but that brought them all the way down, almost out to open country here out of the bocage. So that was pretty huge. They've also managed to hammer the German defenders in this area, get them right down to here. So they're about ready to make their turn to the east here. Try to go for the classic pincher movement, but unfortunately the Commonwealth are still bottled up around Khan. You can kind of see they are wearing the Germans down. There are some scant German reinforcements coming in, but precious few replacements. The Allies have drawn the German manpower problem card twice, and it's really suffocated the German replacement pipeline. And as luck would have it, the Germans rolled 9 and 10 just to see what would have happened. So they lost out a lot of replacements that they could have had. So the German armor is in very poor shape. There's just not enough infantry coming in as reinforcements to really shore up this area. So the Commonwealth is probably not too far away from busting through and taking Caen, finally getting into the open area around the plain there. So we'll bash through a few more turns and catch up in about another week of game time. We got to the July 29, 30th turn here. We see the large portion of the American army is ready to break out to the west. They drew 2 carpet bombing cards, which allowed them to blast holes right through here. No way for the Germans to stop them, just too many step losses. They made good progress here in the center as well, which kind of offset the slow roll up here at Caen, but finally the Commonwealth did bust across the Caen Canal, made a little progress to the east here. Took 1 hex of Caen, but did not entirely break through. But with the American advance over there in the west, that really turned the tide, and that achieved a sudden death victory in the game. So we technically had 1 full month to go, but the Germans just weren't able to stem the tide. Admittedly, that's because I forgot the strategic movement rule. But it's hard to play with anyway, with the interdiction effects. It can cost a lot of steps for the Germans, so I don't think it would have changed. Obviously, it's not going to change the game. It's a foregone conclusion that the Allied numbers are going to prevail. But it could have helped the Germans hold on a little longer in the west there. So that's the end of the game. This is a decent simulation at this scale. I know there's a lot of Normandy games that are at a much smaller scale, huge maps and lots of pieces. But you definitely get a good sense of the campaign, the slow, grinding nature of it, and the card play really puts a lot of variability into it. The combination of the cards, the weather, that really kind of changes the way the game plays, and it adds a lot of interest to it as well. So all in all, I enjoy this little game. Probably impossible to find anywhere, but a nice little entry here in the Normandy series of games.